18 years ago, one of my favorite games of all time was released. Jet Set Radio Future not only signaled a change in its own series, but is one of Sega's first moves from hardware to software development. JSRF embodies this idea of freedom of creative expression, and is still enjoyed as an Xbox cult classic to this day. Let's explore how it came to be, and why people are still interested in this adventure from Tokyo To. Jet Set Radio Future released on February 22nd, 2002 for the Microsoft Xbox in Japan. It would come out a few days later in North America, and a month later in Europe. As the second entry in the Jet Set Radio series, it changed from an arcade-style system to a pseudo-open-world adventure, allowing players to explore freely on two skates. The game was born of a synergistic relationship between Sega and computer giant Microsoft, who had just entered the console market with the Xbox. Sega was reeling from its Dreamcast downfall, and Microsoft needed to prove itself. The two companies would team up to bring some exclusive games to the new system. Thanks to the efforts of second-party developer Smilebit, the Xbox would start off with 3 exclusive Sega titles: Panzer Dragoon Orta, Gun Valkyrie, and Jet Set Radio Future. There's been some debate as to whether or not JSRF is a sequel to Jet Set Radio or a reimagining. The most apt comparison I can think of is Rockstar's Red Dead Revolver and its spiritual successor, Red Dead Redemption. They're wildly different games, but they both embody the same thematic elements of an over-the-top Wild West. The Jet Set Radio games have a similar bond. They're laid out in a vibrant Tokyo with colorful characters and a simple storyline. That's not to say there's anything wrong with either story, but aside from some differences in the details, both boil down to super evil bad guy has control over society and we must stop him by graffitiing the propaganda. But really, it doesn't matter that it's simple. It's enough motivation to keep playing Jet Set Radio. JSRF still keeps core gameplay elements from Jet Set Radio, but with a few changes. It ditched the mural-style graffiti in favor of a moving spray. Much less realistic, but consider the realism in both of these video games. Hint: there's not a lot. Hey, at least you can still make your own graffiti. The graffiti's not the only thing that's changed. I'd say the gameplay is way more fun in Jet Set Radio Future. Moving around is much simpler in Jet Set Radio Future. The animations are a lot more fluid, and chaining tricks together doesn't feel as stiff. The game also adds a lot of new tricks, like Y grinding and hand plants, for bigger combos. These improvements have also allowed Smilebit to make the game environments much larger in scope. Simply put, it's a rollerblading game. Nothing about it should take too long to understand.
Understand the concept of love!
The face buttons and triggers all have simple commands, and you'll figure out some advanced techniques as you progress through the game. So if you've played action games like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, you can jump into Jet Set Radio Future pretty easily. While Jet Set Radio is still fun, it's pretty stiff to control. So it's nice that JSRF got some much needed improvements in gameplay, along with a fresh coat of paint. Let's not discount this fresh coat of paint though. Jet Set Radio Future is visually a different beast. And I'm not talking about Poison Jam. The game combines aggressive inline skating with a large world to explore, allowing for more player freedom. That's not to say that you'll get lost. Personally, I would say that JSRF is just the right size. Could there be more secret areas and things to do? Sure, but I don't think the world itself should be bigger. There's a lot to find and see already. The streets of Tokyo are filled with all sorts of visual elements and future. From scared pedestrians to speeding vehicles, you're probably not going to be able to avoid hitting moving objects. Although that could make a pretty interesting speedrun, I'm just saying. Once you've ducked and weaved your way through everything, you'll have the chance to look at some pretty beautiful environments. The design team did an excellent job of making a unique city sprawl, with each area having its own vibe. You can move around traffic in Shibuya Terminal, climb skyscrapers in Barrow Park, ride the coasters in Sky Dinosaurian Square, tunnel through the underground sewage facility, and so much more. The gameplay may not change, but the environments make it feel different, so it always stays fun. The character and world design is switched up as well. Moving away from a cartoonish manga-inspired style, we've got characters that feel sleeker and futuristic. Pun intended. I really like the redesigns of a lot of the characters, especially Beat, Poison Jam, the Love Shockers, and DJ Professor K. They do give off that early 2000s future aesthetic, but you should remember that this is how Smilebit imagined Tokyo in 2024. It could be weirder. Everyone could be as wacky as Hayashi.
Check this out. Just the other day, he freaked out and trashed a patrol car.
Now this is all well and good, but if you're just hearing skates moving on the ground and grinding on rails, it would get pretty boring. Luckily, Jet Set Radio Future has an absolutely iconic soundtrack. It's filled with songs from many genres that all blend together to boost your adventure with lots of energy. Leading the charge is series composer Hideki Naganuma, who's responsible for many of the songs you'll hear in JSRF. There's also some remixes of his tunes from the original game, as well as songs from other artists such as Scapegoat Wax, Sibo Mato, The Latch Brothers, Guitar Vader, Beast, and Russell Simmons, with Richard Jacques helping out with some of the composition work. Unlike other extreme sports games, Jet Set Radio Future fuses its tunes together, creating medleys for different levels. It feels like a DJ mix, almost as if the in-game DJ Professor K is spinning tunes for you from his underground pirate broadcast radio station, Jet Set Radio. You know, I think I might be onto something. He's always trying to talk to you before every level anyway.
I'll be your audience, so let's see what you got.
Hands down, one of the best soundtracks of all time. You can fight me on this, I don't care. You will lose. Even with all of this, Jet Set Radio Future didn't manage to create a lot of sales. It was rated well, but maybe it didn't resonate completely with a lot of players. What's super funny is that it actually won the Unfairly Ignored award by Official Xbox Magazine in 2002. Actually, that's not funny, that's kinda sad. Luckily, Sega and Microsoft had another plan to bring more eyes to their new endeavor. With the original Duke controller being a bit cumbersome for players with small hands, a new S controller would begin selling with consoles. Bundled in this new package was a combo disc with 2 games, racing title Sega GT 2002 and Jet Set Radio Future. If it wasn't for this bundle, I may not even be here talking to you about this right now. This bundle allowed for people to experience the Xbox at a lower price point, with Jet Set Radio Future and a simple racing game to start out. There's nothing wrong with Sega GT, but it really doesn't hold your attention if you're not super into racing games. So instead, you'd move right into Jet Set Radio Future. As a kid, I really only owned Nintendo consoles, and I had a PlayStation 1 and 2. However, my babysitter did have an Xbox with this bundle, and as soon as I tried this game, I was hooked. There's just something about this game that makes you just want to come back again and again, over and over. I love getting lost in this world. For me, it embodies pure nostalgia, and I can honestly say it's probably one of my first creative inspirations. Maybe it's all the weird tricks you can pull off, or funny glitches you can make happen. Maybe it's a super fun and catchy music. Or it could be that you just simply have fun playing it. JSRF is an easy game to jump right into, and you don't need to devote too much time to learning and mastering the game. It's not bogged down with a lot of additional things to complete, aside from unlocking characters, and the story's not going to take an eternity to finish. In my mind, it's the perfect recipe, and I can't be the only one that thinks that. The fan community has blown up exponentially in the last few years. It's easier than ever now to speedrun both games, thanks to the HD remaster of Jet Set Radio and new knowledge of Xbox modding and video capture. Fan art and music seems to pop up all the time, inspired by the game's aesthetic. The emulation community has started work and is getting closer and closer to a near-perfect Xbox emulation because of games like Jet Set Radio Future being so hard to access and play. Hell, there's even a DJ Professor K Twitter account that acts as the character and even runs an online Jet Set Radio station. I mean, how crazy can this get? There's a reason for all of this, and it's because Jet Set Radio Future is simply an inspiring game. Its fluid gameplay and stunning visuals are complemented nicely by a great soundtrack. The story's not going to slow you down, but it still has enough weird stuff happening to make it interesting. What was once a low-selling Xbox title has created a fully fledged fan community, with maybe a little bit of help from a certain Dreamcast title. I will always know that if it wasn't for Jet Set Radio Future, my life would be completely different. Even if Sega still decides to keep projecting a third game, I'll always know that there's a future for Jet Set Radio. So that's pretty much the video. Thank you all so very much for watching. This has been a video I've wanted to make for a long time, but I've kind of struggled with trying to explain how I feel about this game. So I'm glad that I finally got it out, especially on a day like today. I've made so many Jet Set Radio videos. I will link them all. If you want to go check them out, please do so. This will definitely not be the last time I'm talking about this game, but I can't really give away all the details just yet, so you'll just have to stay tuned. For now, I'm FalseProof, and I'll see you later.